Good evening, students. I hope everyone is able to hear me. Good evening, students. We had the misadventure of a class earlier today at 2:30 p.m., but that has now been postponed to 4 p.m. So I'm now gonna start that. Um, um, right. So I'm able to hear myself perfect. So I hope everyone is able to hear me. Good evening, students. We had the misadventure of a class earlier today. Right. So I'm able to hear myself. So on that note, let me begin with the class straight away. Um, can't hear. Right. So the topic which I'm gonna do right now, let me tell you once again from the start. So basically, we have had several current affairs sessions so far this year, and they were actually focusing on the different months. We were not doing it on the basis of topic, we were doing it on the basis of the months, and that is how typically current affairs classes are run anywhere out there. So, continuing on that theme, and in fact this is a request that has come from some students as well. What I have done right now is that instead of continuing with a month basis, which I will continue anyway, I have also started summary classes from certain topics. So for example, you guys would have noticed that on every month so far we have had lots of indexes, both national as well as international. Likewise, on several of these months we have discussed the different ministry departments. We have also discussed awards and prizes, some military exercises. So these are sort of staples every month that we have noticed. So on that note, I'm now going to uh, So I'm now going to summarize on a topic-wise basis. And in fact, one of the most significant topics has been the indexes. So today's class, I'm going to summarize all the major indexes from the months of January to June. I've only taken a 6 month period because 6 months में काफी भर गया था. 47 slides उसी में बन गया था. So that is why that is my decision, because it was the first major topic. For the remaining months, which is July onwards, मैं एक और बनाऊंगा PPT, not to worry. Right. So on that note, this is our channel. First things first, let me just introduce you guys to what exactly Unacademy stands for. This is our channel. Let's crack management exams, and of course, cat. Our channel is that, and we will be helping you with all sorts of management related examinations. So we are India's largest online learning platform present in across the learning fields such as the entrance exams and school studies. Entrance exams mein we are present for the premier exams for management, engineering, medical, bank PO, SSC, and several others as well. And I think we are present in some foreign countries as well, and in several languages. The options are. This is a brief profile of myself. Many of you would be pretty much familiar with me already, but a little bit more. My name is Aritro Dasgupta, and I've been taking class at Unacademy for the last 4 months. I'm an MBA in Forest Management from the Indian Institute of Forest Management in Bhopal, with specialization in the area of conservation and livelihoods. Right. My experience has been for a decade, more than a decade, in fact, in the areas of teaching, training, strategy, consulting, executive recruitment, and in content writing. Most of my experience has been India, but I've also worked in the Middle East and been published in a trade magazine in the US over consecutive years. And the last 5.5 years, I've been engaged with the coaching segment. So several national exams such as CAT, CLAT, and DUJAT have thrown up rank holders who have been my students during this period. So what all you will receive as part of the Unacademy platform, let me show you. First of all, we have daily live classes, and in fact, this is the name of our channel. You can take a look, Crack Management Exam. So इसको अगर आप click करेंगे, you will basically be able to view all my previous sessions as well. So I've been taking several sessions over the past couple of months. There are live tests and quizzes as well. So these live tests can be of two types. One is when the entire syllabus is asked, and that includes all the topics, and you actually have a time limit mimicking the real exam. This year, of course, the real CAT is only for 2 hours, not 3 hours, as has been the trend the last couple of years. Mm, the other is that we can ask you questions on the spot. So in fact, you can see on the right hand side of the page there is a live chat window on YouTube. So please make use of this. Please ask questions, any questions that you guys have. Mm, Meanwhile, I will be also quizzing you guys with various questions there. And also on unacademy.com, we have a number of quizzes available. So I will be taking your quizzes there as well. By the way, testing reminds me, this Sunday we have the National Scholarship Test. Please do not miss that at any cost. That is something which you guys need to attend. So go for it, all of you. Our course content is very well structured across the examinations. Our head office is in Bengaluru. They are the ones who design the pedagogy, but we guys also plan it along. So we can also modify the sessions as and when needed. You receive unlimited access basically to all the classes. Yeah, so you receive unlimited access to all the classes. Mm, so not to worry at all on that end. There are live tests and quizzes as well. ठीक है, तो एक बार आपने enroll कर लिया, you can go through unlimited number of sessions. This is a list of some of our top educators. Do take a look at their names. Also, do take a look at their number of followers and watch minutes. Looking at their qualifications and experience, you can gauge an idea of how strong our faculty network is. Right. Moving further ahead, this is some more trainers, but more importantly, I wanted to show you guys how you can you receive the notifications for the different classes. So that is pretty much mentioned here. Any class that you may have missed out, you can actually get it back. This is how you receive notifications for the batches. So this is slightly different from what we were doing till now. You can form full-fledged batches either with a single trainer for a single subject, like you can see at the bottom of this page, Shukla ji's classes for English, or it can cover the entire syllabus, and which is why there are a number of trainers that you can do as is mentioned on top. We also are firm believers that language should be a bridge between people and not a barrier, which is why we are present in 16 different languages. There's a schedule here that works ideally for you, unlike any other platform. So once you miss a class, nothing to worry. You can always, because obviously you can't attend every live class. In fact, two classes could also clash at the same time. So that is why you need to plan your classes in such a way that you get the maximum advantage. But in case you miss out on a class, you can always see recordings. All you need is your digital devices. So you can download the sessions or go through the archives. मैंने आपको हमारे चैनल का नाम बताया था, क्रैक मैनेजमेंट एग्जाम्स, तो उसको आप क्लिक करेंगे तो you can look into all the previous sessions as well. We are soon to have four-figure followers. We now have around 980. So pretty sure it'll take just another couple of days to reach the magic 1000 figure. I told you how you can interact with the educator to get your doubts cleared. मैंने आपको live chat window दिखाया था YouTube में. तो if you follow the cursor, इसको please आप लोग use कीजिए to ask me questions and getting your doubts cleared. And of course, there are live polls as well. So I told you there is this thing on YouTube I can ask you, but even better on unacademy.com, this polling system works extremely well. So tomorrow I have got two classes on three classes in fact on unacademy.com. One is a special, two special classes of 1 hour duration each, where I'll be discussing 2 days newspapers. And I also have tomorrow the session on my plus batch, my last of the plus classes, right? So see you guys for those sessions tomorrow. Okay, now how do we do the live tests and quizzes? Let's take a look. I told you about the tests a while back. So once you're done with your test, you also receive a detailed report and analysis. This way, you know which question to actually focus on, which topic to focus on, what you can actually leave out, because it's just not, it's acting as a time cutter. You can actually plan all of this. So very important to give as many mocks as possible. This Sunday we have a NST, once again National Scholarship Test, every Sunday till the real cat this year. So please do not miss that at any cost. There are lots of goodies on offer as well. After each class, you will receive detailed PDFs and learning material for downloading purposes. Right. Probably the most important slide so far is this one, where I am showing you my code AD09. Once you use this, you will receive a flat 10% off. So my request to all of you is to please go through this entire slide line by line. Both sides mean the same, so no need to go through both sides. Any one side, but go line by line. There's something I will discuss with you guys after that, but this is my code at the bottom. You will receive a full 10% off once you use that. Right, I think you have gone through this. And the one thing which I wanted to discuss with you all is that if you look at it closely, one thing you will realize is that it is much more bang, it gives you greater value for money if you go through it on a longer term course. So go for minimum 12 months, which is 1 year, or the 2 year program, which is what 24 months, because your cost per month actually reduces. Right, so I'm basically done with it, the introduction. So now let us begin in earnest today's class. Right, I hope you guys are all have all understood the pattern, because this, as I told you, is so important. Otherwise, you will not know how what package to enroll in. Right, so on that note, let us begin. So national and international indexes. Let us go through them. Mm, Jan to June, as you are aware of. So, what is the importance of indexes? Why should we do indexes? Why should a management student? This is the first major topic that I've separately taken a class on. I've taken monthly classes, but this is the first time that an entire topic I am summarizing. Why am I putting so much emphasis on this? I think it is pretty clear, because I'm not looking into. Okay, so what is the importance of indexes? Let's take a look. See, it's the best source to put forward one's view. Whether it is a VAT, an extempore, a group discussion, there is nothing better to actually prove your point than than these things, than these indexes. बिकॉज इंडेक्सेस में आप प्रॉपरली बता पाओगे कि देखिए ये हुआ है ये नहीं हुआ है, एंड दिस कुड बी ऑन आइदर साइड. सो वेदर यू आर फॉर द टॉपिक, you are against the topic, no problem. You could be neutral, no problem, as long as you put in the right facts and figures. Again, sometimes you may not be able to remember or recall all the facts and figures. That is fine. See, none of us can have a practical experience to talk about such big things, so it's always important that we refer to data, verifiable data. Right. Similarly, so VAT is not about writing unnecessary flowery writing, nor is a GT about one's ability to shout. Instead, you need to have the right opinion. Right? Questions often asked in various exams from all these indexes, and of course they're good for understanding. Now this is also good generally for a manager. A manager needs to take a lot of broad decisions, because a manager is in a decision making position, so a lot of that information can actually derive from these kinds of data. Right, there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind when you are studying these various indexes. Right. Similarly, so VAT is not about writing unnecessary flowery. So one of them is rank one. How to did which country received rank one? Another is what is India's rank. When I'm talking of indexes, I'm typically looking at national or international rankings. I'm not looking at around companies, although those are also part of it. You also need to know which is the body that has brought out the index. So when there is a reliable body, we will count that index as important. You will notice all the indexes I have done, उसमें मैं लिख देता हूँ किस बॉडी ने ये इंडेक्स निकाला है, किसने पब्लिश किया है, बिकॉज दैट गिव्स यू द क्रेडिबिलिटी. अदरवाइज कोई कुछ भी कह सकता है, अरित्रो दासगुप्ता ने कुछ ज्ञान झाड़ दिया, दैट इज नॉट ऑफ सो मच इंपॉर्टेंट. बट अरित्रो दासगुप्ता कोटिंग वर्ल्ड बैंक, यूनाइटेड नेशंस डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम और द आरबीआई or the Ministry of Finance, that is something which is credible. So last year's India rank is also a bottom rank could be important in case India is close to it, if there's something relevant about that, but not always. The first three are always important. Bottom rank is occasionally important. Also, occasionally India's rank of last year could be important, just to show you what is the, if there is major improvement or the otherwise. Major improvement, for example, ease of doing business. We've been doing pretty well the last couple of years, so that would be considered. Some specific parameters where India may have performed exceptionally. So, I will give you an example of that. For example, recently there was something on internet access where overall our rank was moderate, but we did extremely well in terms of the affordability. So, those sub parameters could be brought out as where we've done extremely well, right? So in these indexes, for example, if there's any question on, say, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan being a success or failure, or the level of India's economy, you could actually take these indexes. See, India's economy has done very well because our rank has come up, or India's economy has done badly because, see, we may have done well in that, but in three other indexes, see how things have gone south. So do take a look at those. Okay, so I mentioned this word credible sources. Now, how do you understand what is a credible source? So, these are some of the credible research sources. So, some are international bodies such as World Bank, UNDP, WHO, UNESCO, IMF, ADB, any of the other UN bodies, any of the other supranational banks is something you will need to consider. Ministerial bodies or regulatory bodies in India. Ministerial bodies मतलब Ministry of Finance ने कुछ बताया relevant to that field. Obviously, Ministry of Finance will not talk about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, but Ministry of Finance could talk about, let's say, digitization in money. You know how much of the payments have now become digital, or let's say the Ministry of Jal Shakti might talk about drinking water. availability in the country. The Ministry of Environment and Forest could talk about the tiger census. So we always need a specific ministry for that. Regulatory bodies मतलब RBI, obviously banking के बारे में RBI बताएगा, insurance के बारे में IRDAI बताएगा, stock markets के बारे में it will be SEBI, and so on and so forth, right? Top international or national publications. So, for example, Forbes, very well respected. Fortune is its rival. Bloomberg, The Economist, Harvard Business Review. Nowadays, we are talking a lot about medical. So, ICMR is considered a top body. So, they have their publications as well. There are also think tanks in India, like the Niti Aayog, which obviously has replaced the Planning Commission. Niti Aayog comes up with a lot of important reports. There are also several top private organizations in respective fields, such as uh, Standard and Poor or Moody's. These are highly important when it comes to credit rating agencies. On the other hand, Goldman Sachs is a very important investment bank, right? So you need to know what is the right source for which thing. Right. This is a golden rule to remember. Please never forget this. So, most international indexes are topped by small developed countries, small but developed. So, if you look at the world map, you will notice that there are some countries which are big in size, and there are others which are small in size. Now, developed countries are countries from North America, from Western Europe. Now, big countries like USA or France or UK or Germany or Japan or Italy, these are developed countries, but because they're big, they have a lot of diversity, they have a lot of inequality also in these countries. But the smaller countries, the ones which I've mentioned, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Iceland, New Zealand, Switzerland, these tend to do extremely well across global indices. So let's start with some international indexes. Okay, the first one, very important, Global Talent Competitiveness Index. ये क्या चीज़ है? Let's take a look. As the name suggests, this is about how competitive is the talent scenario in the country. What kind of competition is encouraged in the country? So India's rank is not bad. It's 72nd. Switzerland is rank 1. This ranking has been provided by a French international business school, which is INSEAD. I'm sure you guys have heard of INSEAD, one of the top B schools in the world. One of the dream destinations for a lot of those who, in fact, many of you might also be considering going abroad. So, INSEAD could be one of those best options. You will also need perspectives from Google and Adecco. These are a couple of the those which have provided some of the data in this. So Google obviously gets a lot of data because maximum number of people are searching on Google, and Google has a very strong analytics wing. So all of this included, Google is obviously one of the most reliable data sources for these companies to compile data. Okay, now we look at democracy index, which basically looks into how strong are the democratic institutions in these respective countries. What is the EIU? Let's understand first. It's the Economist Intelligence Unit. Mm, Economist is the name of a famous magazine, very old magazine from the 18th century, if I'm not wrong, originating back then in the United Kingdom, back then England or Great Britain. So there's a magazine called The Economist. उसी का जो research wing है, that is the Economist Intelligence Unit. Rank 1, I gave you that golden law. Norway is rank 1. इसमें Switzerland is rank 1. So I think my rule pretty much holds. Please let me explain to you. GK is not an exact science. So when I'm saying it's a golden rule, I don't mean it works 100% of the times, but it will work 90% of the times. It's not physics or chemistry that my law will be universal all the time. India's rank is 61, which is not bad, but what is alarming is that we have seen a 10 rank, 10 position decline from last year. That is why last year's. Yes, now it is working. I was sort of unable to hear myself. I think things are working pretty good now. Yes, now it is working. I was sort of unable to hear myself. I think things are working pretty good now. Great, great. Okay, so India's rank is 61, which isn't bad at all. But the problem is we have declined by 10 ranks from last year. Okay, so Global Climate Risk Index talks about the risks with climate change and which countries are most vulnerable to the constant changes which are occurring right now. So let's take a look. This is published by a research firm called German Watch. Now, this is not so well known, not as well known as, say, the Economist Intelligence Unit or the INSEAD Business School. But why am I including this? Is because in this particular field of climate index, this is a pretty well known organization. So isme number one is not important because here we have levels, we have bands. So if you are, so the bottom countries are mentioned. Bottom ka matlab hai you are most vulnerable. So isme being on the other hand, beyond a certain level they have given bands. 130 to 100, 100 to 70, 99 to 70, 69 to 40, that sort of a thing. So there's no rank one. Here we have most vulnerable. India is the fifth most vulnerable, so we stand at 177th, which you can imagine is pretty bad. However, within Indian states also there is further vulnerability. Kerala, is a state that has suffered from a lot of flooding in recent years. So Kerala ranks most vulnerable among Indian states. Japan, of course, suffers from earthquakes, typhoon, tsunami. They've suffered a lot of these things, so that's why lots of earthquakes. So Japan is most vulnerable. Okay, now we have something called the Human Development Index. This is one of the most famous indexes in the world, developed by the United Nations. This is published each year by the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP. It was first created by a Pakistani economist whose name is Dr. Mehboob ul Haq. इसमें once again rank one is Norway. So you can pretty well imagine. So far we've had three rankings. One of them, rank one, was not important. The other three, Switzerland has been rank one. Norway has been rank one on two occasions. India's rank, this one is pretty embarrassing, 129th. I should have mentioned that there is a particular government schemes called Aspirational Districts Program. In fact, I'll write it down on the chat window. Aspirational Districts, एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट एस्पिरे कोई स्पेलिंग में गलत है क्या? ये रेड दिखा रहा है. एस्पिरेशनल districts program launched by government of India to primarily improve the HDI ranking. I mean, HDI ranking is not the only thing, but the idea is that people should be benefited, and all the schemes, all the parameters within the aspirational districts program, they're actually in line with the HDI, such as a focus on primary health care, on primary education, sanitation, women's welfare, women and child welfare. So all of this are actually important parameters under the HDI. Aspirational districts, it actually looks into some of the most backward districts in the country which have been identified, and so the Ministry of Home Affairs is personally looking into this thing. Now, there's something called a Global Hunger Index, which is brought out by this body called Concern Worldwide. This is, as the name suggests, it tracks the hunger levels of people worldwide. And India's rank this year, fewer countries have participated, with a slightly older data, 102nd out of 117 countries. This is actually very embarrassing. We are 16 from bottom. But more importantly, these are 117 countries which are likely to have hunger. So in this index, unlike the other indexes, countries, the developed countries have not even been polled. They're not even been surveyed. Countries like, say, a Norway or Sweden or a Finland or a Australia or New Zealand, these were not even part of the poll. We have only included countries which are likely to have a lot of hunger. So isme rank one is important, but please understand, rank one is a country which is best of the ones which have a trouble. It's not per se number one. Similarly, the country at the bottom, however, is more important because that reflects the reality. right? So only those countries which are likely. So developed countries kept out of this survey. Belarus is rank one. I think you guys would be aware where is Belarus. We've been speaking quite a bit about Belarus for some time now due to the political crises which engulfed the country. You've probably seen a lot of street protests which took place because of the elections which took place recently, where somewhat controversially Ms. Sikunishkaya lost and Mr. Lukashenko came to power. And since then, there have been a lot of protests on the streets. So, Belarus, we've been speaking about, it's a neighbor of Russia, part of the old Soviet bloc. Bottom rank, I told you, is more important. Chad was number one a couple of years back, but now it's neighboring Central African Republic. If you look at the location of CAR, it is right at the point of the Sahara Desert. So that is why it's particularly important. And let me just show you guys. I really don't know the capital of Central African Republic, so I'll have to look at the whole country maybe. Yes, Central African Republic, right? And I will be looking at directions from, let's say, Egypt, so that you get an idea from Cairo in Egypt, right? So you can pretty well imagine, although I don't know, somehow no vehicle seems to be mentioned. Okay, I'll put in the capital, maybe उससे थोड़ा सा easy होगा आप लोगों के लिए. नहीं, Bangui is the capital, right? So Chad you can see is completely within the, shall we say, Chad is completely within the Sahara Desert. CAR is slightly outside, so it is actually showing in green. So it shouldn't be that bad actually. But Chad, you can imagine, is completely landlocked and completely surrounded. So that is where India's rank gets particularly bad in this case. Right, so this is the Central African Republic. Now we have another report known as the Global Gender Gap Report. So this, of course, tracks the difference between the genders in terms of economic, social, and cultural, sort of respect and independence. This is released by a very important body known as the World Economic Forum, one of the most respected international bodies. इसमें इंडिया का रैंक बहुत ही पीछे है 112. Rank one is Iceland, where a new law has been passed, equal pay for equal work, which is what is helping them do so well in this particular index. This is also one index where Bangladesh has done extremely well. It's the only country from South Asia which is ranked in the top 50. It's ranked 50th. In fact, Bangladesh has been one of the top performers in this index. There's also something known as Corruption Perception Index. This is brought out by Transparency International. Today's class might, I won't say be boring, but it could at times be a bit, shall we say, repetitive. Although I'm trying not to be like that, but then we have more or less similar things that we are constantly talking about, and that is what is somewhat difficult. Because it's the same topic ultimately, but that's the advantage. You have one place where you are tracking all the indexes. Indexes आपको पढ़ने हैं, so just go through this. So this has been prepared by the Transparency International, and India's rank is 80th. Rank 1 is jointly held by two countries, Denmark and New Zealand. Denmark, of course, in Northern Europe, New Zealand, totally separate continent. Both are small countries. Uh, I think Denmark's population is between 5 to 7 million. New Zealand's also roughly the same. Okay, this is of course how corrupt you are. However, this question now, this word is critical. We have this word, if you see, perception. So we are not necessarily saying how corrupt you are. We are instead talking about what is the perception people hold. Can you see this word, perception? So that means that we aren't really concerned with how corrupt you are. Instead, we are concerned with the perception of the same. So it's a survey, it is not a scientific study per se. right? Okay. Inclusive Internet Index, and I think this I had mentioned to you a while back. So this talks about all the how much the internet is inclusive towards the people. Give me a moment, please. So as I said, we aren't really looking at how inclusive the internet, but it's about how much inclusive is the access that people have. Do the poorer people have access? Do the more remote regions have access, or only some of the big cities have access? Is there massive censorship? Can young people avail information? Is it free from excess government interference? Government censorship will always be there of some kind or the other, but is there excessive control? Is the question. So, in fact, recently there was one thing that has come up from from several stakeholders who have suggested OTT platforms like Amazon Prime, Netflix, shall we say this Z5, Sony Live. All of these should also come under some sort of censorship, which is not the case right now. So do give me your views on this. This can be a very good topic for the group discussions later this year. Okay, so released by the European yeah, sorry, by the EIU. We discussed a while back. EIU stands for Economist Intelligence Unit. So India's rank in this one is actually very good, 46th, probably because of Geo and some of the other players as well, which have ensured that internet connectivity is actually pretty good in India. By the way, I do know of several experts who actually believe to the contrary. They believe that digital empowerment is one of the worst forms of empowerment because people end up watching TikTok videos or WhatsApp and YouTube, not our kind of lectures, but other stuff on YouTube all the time and not really engage in serious matters. This is something that a lot of people feel that digital empowerment should actually be reduced or at least controlled. So rank one is Sweden, perhaps no surprise there. Okay, now I want to discuss about, unlike the others, so far all the indexes we have done are related to countries, but this one is related to um, individuals, to people. However, even when it comes to people, countries can play a role because a lot of the voting which takes place, and of course, the prestige that a country gets, even when its individuals are rewarded, that is immense. Okay, so this was published by the BBC. BBC has this specific program called the World Histories Magazine. So, rank one on this is Mahatma Gandhi with a 38% vote share. That is what is truly significant about this. While rank two is somebody from West Africa. I have mentioned the word West Africa. I didn't want to mention a country. It's because he was actually involved with two different countries, just like Simon Bolivar, concerned with so many countries of South America and Latin America. Similarly, he was engaged with both Equatorial Guinea and the Cape Verde Islands. So Equatorial Guinea was a Spanish colony. Cape Verde Islands were a Portuguese colony. He was primarily concerned with the Cape Verde Islands, which was a Portuguese colony. Also with Sao Tome e Principe, which is not far away, also another former Portuguese colony. So look at the massive vote share these two have received overall, right? It was voted on the internet by different people. Now, this is something which should make us happy. It's about happiness, global happiness index, and which countries in the world are the happiest. So, on top, this was released by the United Nations, no less. So, obviously, something of great relevance. The total number of participants in this is 156. So, basically, almost all the countries in the world, barring around 40 countries only, about 3 dozen countries not participating. Rank one is Finland here. Again, Not a big surprise. Happiness looks into several things, such as the engagement of children, having less violence in society, access to sports, access to open areas. Finland is a country which used to be very good in sports. So, if you look at the first couple of decades of the Olympic movement, till say the 1960s, which is basically 60 years, barring a couple of world wars. Finland was actually among the top 7, 8 nations in the Olympics in the all-time medals tallies, especially in athletics. They were very good. Now, couple of reasons why they lost out. One of them, so athletics, they had a massive advantage, physical advantage, but that sort of evened out once the US started becoming more colorblind. Earlier the US athletics team was full of white people, but once the Afro Americans started gaining greater participation, they tended to have an advantage and they started doing better than the Finns. So the Finns could not compete there, or in sometimes even in boxing. But after that, Finland sort of went through a phase which is continuing of going very internal. So today it's a country which hardly participates in any international sport. You look at the Olympics today, they win maybe 1 or 2 gold medals, which is pretty low for a European country, and nor do they make up in the Winter Olympics. It's not that they do great in the Winter Olympics compared to its neighbors, Norway and Sweden. If you look at the world's most prestigious team sports, football, obviously the one in Europe, which is like the currency of Europe. Sweden has been one of the top countries. Denmark, one of the giants of the game in a way. Norway, also not much of a performer, but they are coming up with some really good players. Finland, by the way, has already qualified for Euro 2020. This year, had Euros been held, Finland had qualified, but they will be participating next year when the Euros will be held. So there is improvement on that sense, but overall, in ice hockey they're very good. But still, the country has a lot of weird sports, a lot of sports which are only played by Finland. Finland is a country of a lot of lakes, known as the land of 1,000 lakes. So they have a lot of sports around that which are considered rather weird. So just do a Google search, kabhi aapko pata chalega. But all of this, the benefits are it brings the community together. Unlike the conventional sports, which also have a lot of competitiveness in that, which often takes away the fun. Imagine last time you were watching an intense international cricket match, India versus somebody else. Often we are happier when our team is not playing. We feel tension free. Whereas if India is playing a big side in cricket, we are often tense. What's going to happen? So that's where these people have an advantage. India's rank abysmal, 13th from bottom. 144th is the ranking. Uh, well, difficult to say. Maybe we have too many classes, too much academics. I don't know. Uh, I don't know what is responsible, but this is one of those. Okay, international illicit financial flow. It means the kind of black money which flows in. And here only developing countries have been included in this. I just connect my laptop to the charger because it's getting dark, the screen. So this was released by a US based think tank. Just like Indian think tanks like Niti Aayog can be important, this is also a fairly important one called the Global Financial Integrity, or GFI, which is based in the United States. India has a third highest, this is whopping, third highest trade related illicit financial flow among over 135 countries with a whopping 83.5 billion US dollars. इसका क्या मतलब है? It means money which is not tracked, which does not come under the official category, and so the government misses out on the taxation and the people miss out on the benefits. Though some people do get the benefits, but mm, it does not come out legally. See, black money here does not necessarily mean bad things. It's not that this illicit money is being used to sort of spread guns or drugs or spurious alcohol. We do not necessarily mean that. Illicit money is simply money which does not go through the official sources. Right? I'll just connect the mouse and other stuff. Just give me a moment, guys. Right? Fair enough. You know, the advantage of our thing, we also have an up next category. So you can see several other classes as well. Once you're done with my session, you can go through several other sessions which are part of our channel. Right. So this is a list only for developing and mid-income countries. Top five, you might be surprised. China is number one, followed by Mexico, India. Then you have two East European countries, Russia and Poland. Okay, now we have something called the Freedom of the World Report. This is about how free are the people in this country. And this is another US based research firm or think tank called the Freedom House. India's rank is 83rd, again, not that good. Although better than the happiness index, where I remember we were pretty much at the bottom. इसमें कोई number one नहीं है because इसमें जितना ऊपर हो उतनी बुरी बात है. So and even if you're bottom, it means basically you're among the countries which have an illicit flow. So that is why that was not mentioned in this one. ठीक है. On the other hand, freedom of the world में Finland is rank one. Yet again, Finland doing so brilliantly. Right. If you have any questions, please feel free to write it out on the YouTube chat window. Tomorrow, by the way, I have a plus class. I have taken 4 plus classes already. Tomorrow will be the fifth and last of my batch for this month. I'll continue most likely with most more of these plus classes next month as well. Okay, now index of economic freedom. Let's take a look at this. Okay, this is published by the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation is again a famous think tank. I think it is based in Hong Kong. I'm not sure. एक बार आप check कर लेना. This was first published in 1995, so it's been around for 25 years. This index, pretty old for an index. A lot of the indexes are more recent. Rank one, this is impressive. Singapore is another small country which I didn't mention when I wrote to you at the start of the class that small but developed countries. So I mentioned a couple of Scandinavian countries, then I mentioned Switzerland, New Zealand. There's also Singapore, which does extremely well across indices. India's rank 120th. So this looks at economic freedom, while the previous one looked at freedom of the people in the social and civil rights or criminal protection against criminal activities. This is for economic freedom. How easy it is to start a firm or to dissolve a firm. How easy to set up a new business industry, manufacturing hub, get access to loan sources. So Singapore, of course, one of the major business hubs of the world. So they are doing extremely well at rank one. Now, Global Press Freedom Index, right? It means how free is the press. Press as in not just newspapers, but we are also looking at the digital media here, the print media, of course, but also television and the internet. So all of that is included, but official sites only, official, shall we say, press organizations, not any random blogger. कोई random blogger ने कुछ बोल दिया, I don't think that would be included here. Okay, so this is published by an organization. It's called RSF because it's actually a French term, which is why it does not really expand to Reporters Without Borders. Some of you might be thinking it's actually in French, Reporters Sans Frontières. I'll write it down in on the YouTube chat window. So RSF stands for Reporters Sans matlab without Frontieres, something like this. Sans frontiers in English, if I may. Okay, so India's rank not that good as you can see. 142nd among 180 countries. Rank one is Norway. I think the bottom is not a surprise. North Korea. And that's a country where you have it's a dictatorial country where you do not have any freedom which is for the people. Right? That's where it comes so far at the bottom. It's a dictatorship by the Kim Jong Un government. I hope I'm not going too fast. If you need time, do let me know. I'll be happy to stay there, or I can even go back to previous slides. In fact, in case you need such a thing. And of course, all those who will be watching this session recorded, you can always pause. That's a big advantage. Those who have, but the live viewers, do let me know in case there is some help needed on that case. Okay, now I'm going to look at impact ranking. So again, this is very similar to one of those indexes we did some time back, which was that BBC index. Like those, this one too looks into not countries but into organizations. So this was actually set up by this body. So if any of you is thinking or is considering going abroad for higher education, this is it. This is the body. Look no further. It's either Times Higher Education or it's QS. These are the two best known ones. So you need to look into these for any of the indexes. In case you need consultation on where to visit, this is pretty much now the place. Right? Okay. So it's a global list that ranks. This is very important. इसको थोड़ा ध्यान से देखिए. Ranks institutes of higher education in terms of the social and in political impact framed around the UN's 17 SDGs. ठीक है. So ये क्या चीज है? एक बार आप ध्यान दीजिए. तो how can educational institutes impact the political scenario by forcing political parties and political leaders to work towards these SDGs? Also, their social impact, whether it has a positive benefit on the society itself. So, the IIT in Kharagpur, which is in West Bengal, is ranked number one among the Indian institutions. It is also 57th worldwide, the IIT in Kharagpur, West Bengal. Rank 1 is the University of Auckland, which is in New Zealand. Right? I do keep checking out in case there are any comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, now we have something called Energy Transition Index. What does this stand for? It's released by the World Economic Forum. India's rank is 74th. Okay, so World Economic Forum is a once a year getting together of all the leaders in the world, especially on the economic commerce ministers, are regular visitors in this thing. And they have an annual summit in Davos, Switzerland. But the rest of the year, even though summits are held only once, summit is only held once, but the rest of the year, they do bring out a lot of these other tables. So this one is basically about how you have transitioned from conventional energy towards the renewable energy sources. I would say this is probably one of the most important ones. In case you have any group discussions around climate change, I think this is something. Climate change these days increasingly pollution becoming a very important task. So you can always say there's a topic on how do we sort of improve the air quality, say in Delhi, because Delhi is obviously one of the worst hit cities being landlocked, unlike Mumbai or Kolkata, which Mumbai is on the ocean, like next to the sea, same as Chennai. Kolkata is near the sea, about 100 kilometers. Delhi, on the other hand, is completely landlocked. So Delhi suffers a lot. So this is something you can always mention that we are 74th on the Energy Transition Index by the WEF. I hope we can come up, and then these are a couple of things that we can do to come up. Again, no surprise there. Sweden is rank 1 on this index. राइट आई डोंट थिंक there's any this thing. हमने शुरू में एक इंडेक्स किया था, टैलेंट competitiveness index. So that was about how competitive are the people and how competitive is the talent or education scenario. The next one I'm going to do is simply on the raw material of talent, how talented are the people, and only certain indicators are taken. So for example, one of the common studies is you go to students on class 5, fifth standard, and you give them maths questions or English questions of class 2. So a class 5 student should be very easily able to do class 2's questions. But sometimes they, I mean, theoretically it sounds great, but they often don't. In fact, I'll tell you, there was once a contest on television called क्या आप पांचवी पास से तेज है. The idea is that class 5 में हम बहुत कुछ पढ़ लेते हैं, but आगे आके हम भूल जाते हैं. That is exactly what all class 5 related questions were being asked, and a lot of adults could not answer those. So um, that is those are that's just an experiment, but this is how the entire operation takes place. This is published by IMD, which is actually a business school based in both Switzerland and France. They have offices in Geneva, Switzerland, and in Paris, France. Rank 1, I guess no surprise, Switzerland here. India's rank is 59th. Again, not a great score, but not too bad either. As long as you're in the early double figures, is pretty decent, I believe. Right, I'll just take a brief bio break. Give me a moment, please, and then I'll be back. You please note it down and let me know in case you want to discuss anything else so far, because today's class is all mostly repeats. We've sort of discussed once all of these, but I wanted one area where you have an entire summary of all these indexes. Just give me a minute. I'll just be back. Right. So, guys, I'm back. Let's continue then with the session. Okay, so next one is about Global Diplomacy Index. It's basically about how big a network of diplomacy a certain country has, and here macro factors will matter a lot. So, unlike a lot of the indexes so far, where micro factors would have been even more crucial, in this one, macro factors pretty much rule the roost. So, this is prepared by an expert firm on diplomacy, which is the Lowy Index. China has the world's largest diplomatic network as per this index. India's rank is 12th, so not bad at all. In fact, USA was number one until recently. China has displaced USA, but India's rank is really impressive at 12th. So probably the best ranking we've had so far among all the indexes done. As I said, macro factors will matter. So India being such a large country with a massive GDP, and of course, lot of this is basically about the representation, the number, and the power of the embassies and consulates worldwide. You know how many embassies you have in different countries, or what is the working staff, how many ambassadors, those kind of things, right? And also consulates, because the bigger countries you also have consulates. This is one more where macro factors will matter a lot, because this is about overall production. So obviously, a bigger country, a more populated country with greater resources will tend to do better here. And once again, India's rank is pretty impressive. We have actually gone above a major power. So this is an index, I would say, one of the most important this year in case there is talk of economic growth, or especially if there's talk against coronavirus pandemic and the lockdowns. This rise actually happened during the peak months of the COVID-19 lockdown. So that is what makes this pretty impressive. So let's play along. India is now the fifth largest producer of hydropower in the world. We've overtaken Japan, which used to be fifth. Now we've gone up. Can you take a guess which are the top four countries? I think you know what is hydropower. Hydropower is basically water-based electricity. Electricity which is generated by water, also known as hydel power. So think of countries which are pretty large and which have a lot of fresh water sources. Fresh water is the keyword. So don't look at countries which have a lot of seas. So think of countries which internally have a lot of lakes and rivers. Right? Let's see if you guys have come up with any answers. I'm still waiting for your answers. I'm giving you some time. Do let me know. I'm giving you 1 more minute. Think of this. क्या हो सकता है इसमें? Right. Let me see if you guys have the answers. Right. So let me just reveal to you what are the answers. This report was released by the International Hydropower Association, which, as the name suggests, is a body which tracks hydropower production. So look at the top four. I hope you have come up with such answers. Canada has a lot of fresh water. Canada and USA are actually on the boundary with each other, and they actually share something called the Great Lakes. Let me write down to you the Great Lakes. Great Lakes. There are five of them. अरे ये I don't know why मैंने shift करके दबाया था I think Can I delete my comment because I don't want too many comments? Right. So Great Lakes, known by short form Holmes, because Holmes actually comes up as the first name of these five. Which are the Holmes? I'll tell you: Huron, uh, okay, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, which is actually the smallest of the lot. Michigan, there's also a state by that name. Ontario, there's a state in Canada, and the last one is Superior, which is the biggest of the lot. Superior is actually the biggest freshwater lake in the world, biggest by size, not in terms of the depth, that is Lake Baikal, only among freshwater lakes. So these Great Lakes are actually on the boundary between US and Canada, and so both these countries have a lot of access to them. I'm sure you've all heard of Chicago, you've heard of Buffalo, Toronto. All these cities are on one side or the other of the Great Lakes. I think Detroit as well. Brazil, again, no surprise, it has the Amazon river, the world's largest. China has mighty rivers, Huanghe, Yangtze Kiang. I would say most significantly the Mekong River, which is extremely navigable and has a lot of fresh water intake in it. So India is fifth, overtaken Japan, which has a lot of lakes. Okay, so now it's again an individual based round. This is about the highest paid celebrities in the world. So rank one is Kylie Jenner from the USA. In fact, her revenues were almost five times that of number two, who's Mr. Kanye West, who's number one among men, also from the US. The highest ranked Indian is Akshay Kumar, the Bollywood actor. So after a couple of indexes based on people, personalities, cults, and also on macro factors, we are back to something which is based on micro issues. So let's take a look at the Environmental Performance Index. Erie, which is actually the smallest of the lot. Michigan, there's also a state by that name. Ontario, there's a state in. Right. So EPI, it's released by the Yale Center for Environmental Law and Policy. You will notice the spelling of ERI of center. It is with an E. So I'm just gonna highlight this word, center, and यहाँ पे again E, not TRE but TER. That's the American spelling. So it's a particular center for environmental law and policy. So there are 180 countries in total, and India's rank is 168. So massively embarrassing. However, it's not the worst. A couple of years back, we were 177. So we've actually improved by nine ranks. I don't know. We must have taken some steps, but from fourth from bottom, we are now 13th from bottom. So it's some improvement, no doubt. Rank one, no surprise again. Denmark is number one there. Denmark is, by the way, quite an industrial power. In spite of that, it clings on to number one here. Is, I think, quite the achievement. In terms of air quality, though, India and Pakistan occupy the bottom two spots. So Pakistan is 180th, and we are, shall we say, 160. We are 179th. They are 180th. We are 179th. Okay. So northern part of the Indian subcontinent basically is under pretty bad condition. So something needs to be done for that. I think this was one of the reasons why the BS6 vehicle was made compulsory instead of going for BS4. We want the Indian government decided to straight away go for the best level. So we discussed the THE sometime back, Times Higher Education. So let's not leave out QS either. QS is again highly respected. This is Quacquarelli Simons. It stands for, like the THE. This is the other really credible body for all kinds of um, surveys and studies for international colleges. Any of you, I think many of you who are going for CAT will also be going for GMAT, because CAT and GMAT often works together. The syllabus is around 70% similar. The maths or quants in CAT is actually slightly above the GMAT level. The English is slightly below the level. I'm giving a very tip of the iceberg point, but I'm sure many of you attending this class will also consider going abroad for and obviously sitting for a GMAT and other examinations. So if you are considering anything like that, QS and THE, please don't look much further. There may be some other good rankings, I'm not suggesting, but this should be among them. So it's one of the most reliable organizations for studies and surveys on global academic institutions. The Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay, it's still called the IIT Bombay, is actually India's highest ranked university among the top 200 global universities. It's ranked 172nd on its own, which actually means the highest among Indian institutions. The IISc in Bengaluru is ranked 185th, so it's just outside the category. While IIT Delhi is 193rd, so there are three Indian institutions in the top 200. Not bad, you know. There was a stage when we had to do a survey beyond 200 because there was no Indian institute in the top 200. So it's good that we are having at least a few inclusions in the top 200. The MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in northeastern United States, they are globally rank one. Again, I guess not much of a surprise in that. So now I'm looking at, so we had done talent ranking, we had done talent competitiveness ranking. Now we are looking at competitiveness ranking. So unlike talent competitiveness, which is about people, this is about how competitive is the overall industry in this particular country, industry and economy, how much competition there is between companies, how free the sectors are. This has been released by the IMD, Institute for Management Development. In India's rank is pretty good, 43rd, which means we have good amount of competition per sector. Rank one is Singapore. So I told you this is one small Asian country which does exceedingly well. Some could say pulls above its weight. I wouldn't say so. I think it's a very developed, much a developed country. It's Asian, but it's as developed as any Western country. So Singapore is rank one. This is another index where we've actually done pretty well. इस index का actually कोई नाम नहीं है. इट्स जस्ट समथिंग विच वॉज रिलीज, ये हेडलाइन तो मैंने ही डाला है, बट मैं आपको समझाऊंगा आप कैसे उसको यूज कर सकते हैं. बेसिकली मैंने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का नाम डाल रखा है. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ रेफरिंग टू दिस बाय एनी नेम, यू कैन सी एज पर अ रिपोर्ट रिलीज बाय द स्विस नेशनल बैंक, सो एंड सो व्हाट इज दिस इंडेक्स अबाउट, ये मैं थोड़ा सा समझा देता हूं आपको. और पहले मैं ये भी बता दूं कि अनलाइक ऑब्वियसली एनी अदर इंडेक्स where obviously you need to be as close as possible to the top, इसमें the more bottom you are, the better it is. So why? Please understand. So this index actually talks about how much money from each country is parked in the Swiss banks. And this index was released by SNB, the Swiss National Bank, which is actually the central bank of Switzerland, akin to the RBI in India. So the higher you are, it means there is more amount of money in these banks. The lower means less amount. Is it a bad thing to put money in Swiss banks? Not really. I mean, it's not that the money system or the banking system is completely corrupt. No. To the contrary, Switzerland is a country which respects its bankers a lot. It's a country which was entirely built for the purpose of banking. Almost that's like one of the central tenets of this country. However, because they have so much respect over the banks and over bankers, banks have complete independence, so there is very little check on the banks. So that's why basically you can stash in any amount of money and there isn't really much of a check. They will check how much money, but there are no questions asked. In fact, there are lots of these cheesy thrillers where you'll see some dead body being stashed inside because nobody's ever gonna check. So I'm not going down that route. That's obviously into pot boiler territory. बट सो अगेन ज़रूरी नहीं कि गलत पैसा है, बट आप इंडिया से अगर स्विट्जरलैंड पैसा भेज रहे हो या आप साउथ अमेरिका से भेज रहे हो या अफ्रीका से भेज रहे हो, द चांसेस आर व्हाई विल यू सेंड टू सच अ फार ऑफ कंट्री, द चांसेस आर इट इज नॉट द क्लीनेस्ट ऑफ मनी, लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट. So the more bottom you are, the better you are. So India's rank was actually pretty high a couple of years back. I remember many years back it was around 32 or something, मुझे exact याद नहीं आ रहा. But then we did extremely well. We reached the 70s and then we reached 89. So 89 is a massive downward trend. Very good. Last year I think थोड़ा सा upward jump हुआ once again. So years of improvement when we were going down. Last year we came up, which is the bad thing here. So I think we were ranked 73rd or 74th last year. This year not much of a change. So not much has changed this year. But last year there was a bit of a upward bump, which in this case is a negative thing. Right. So let's understand. SNB, I told you it's a central bank, Swiss National Bank, central bank of this country. I can see somebody has joined this session. So whoever that is, good evening. Do put in your points here. So India has moved down three places. We are 77th. So we were 73rd, then 74th, then 77. But last year we came up from 89 to 73. That was sort of underperforming. A lower rank is positive because of, I've put it under quotes because we can't assume that all the money in Swiss banks is black. So let's not go down that route. India accounts for merely 0.6% of the total amount. So we keep talking about a lot of black money and dishonest politicians and businessmen who run away with the money. But let's face it, we are still very insignificant out of the total. That means maybe we aren't as dishonest as we think of ourselves. Rank one is the United Kingdom, a country which is so much developed, and that one of the reasons is the City of London. The City of London is actually the global headquarters for foreign exchange, and you might have noticed that some of the world's richest men, some of the world's top entrepreneurs, many people who run away. आपने देखा होगा इंडिया से कभी भी जब कोई भागता है, some fugitive, financial fugitive like a Nirav Modi or a Lalit Modi or a Vijay Malia, there are several other names, I think. कहाँ जाते हैं? They all end up in London. I mean, there must be a reason. London is also home to lots of these Russian oligarchs who have their black money, these Arab sheikhs, uh, and no wonder a lot of that money gets invested into English football. If you look at the financial status of English football, you will notice that there's a lot of money which comes in from into the football clubs. Football is a very good way of sort of legalizing your money. Sport washing जिसे कहते हैं. Have you heard of this term? Sport washing. It's a combination of the word whitewashing and sport. Sport washing, where sports are used to legitimize use to legitimize use of money through popular pastimes. ठीक है? So when a Qatar when the sovereign wealth fund of Qatar acquires the French football club PSG, there may be question marks on the Qatari regime. It might be considered a country which does not have democracy, which exploits its foreign workers. These are not my terms. I don't know much about Qatar. It's the views of several people who are, I guess, experts on this. So Qatar might have all these problems, but when you watch football and you think, oh, Qatar has funded, when you see Neymar and Kylian Mbappe and Mauro Icardi, Marco Verratti, Angel Di Maria play together, you think, wow, this is great. Qatar has made it possible. Manchester City fans, Abu Dhabi's money. So sport washing, that's a common term, happens a lot in the United Kingdom, it seems. We are done with all the international indexes, so just a couple more slides, and I'm going to do a couple of the national indexes before I wrap up today's session. Tomorrow, please do not miss my plus classes. So there's a good governance index. Tamil Nadu rank 1 among the big states, while Himachal Pradesh ranks top among the northeast and hill states. So this obviously is much smaller states. While among the union territories, it is Puducherry which ranks 1. तो यहाँ लिखा है northeast and hill states, but basically it means small and mid-sized states. Big states में Tamil Nadu rank 1. Puducherry number 1 among the union territories in terms of how well they are governed. This is the India 100 2020 report. So unlike the ones which I've done so far, most of the ones, this is one of those few which looks into private companies and not into countries or institutions. So which are these? Let's take a look. It's released by a very important magazine for finance and branding related stuff called Brand Finance. Anybody who's appearing, who's aiming at MICA, you should read this report carefully. And in fact, watch some of the stuff of this magazine. Read this magazine, you'll get a great idea. So it talks about some of the top brands, and Taj has been ranked overall number 1. That is truly impressive about Taj. Taj, of course, part of the Tata group. Tatas have a very good, shall we say, goodwill. So please, when it comes to brand value, please do not confuse brand value with company valuation. Company valuation looks into, or let's say, annual returns looks into how much money you have earned. That's it. Only looks at quantitative stuff. This, on the other hand, also looks into several qualitative factors. For example, what is the brand value you guys have on a certain company, on a certain brand. So generally, the Tata Group is has a very high goodwill compared to several of the other players. These are the top 10. I want you guys to remember these 10. Um, so Geo, HP, HP in this case is Hindustan Petroleum, not Hewlett Packard. Maruti Suzuki hoga, not Suzuku. I'll just make the correction. Suzuki, right? It's good to correct that thing there, then and there itself. Nahin? That's what I personally believe in. From current slide, right? Can't do a pura again. There's also HDFC Bank, Indigo, which is of course into airlines, Indian Oil, just like HP, Hindustan Petroleum, one of the government PSUs, LIC, another PSU, public sector undertaking. ACC is a cement company, while Amul, everybody knows, सबका favorite butter and other milk products. Okay, India ranking 2020. This is actually two slides on the same thing. So this is again about education. So released by the Union Ministry of HRD, now called the Union Ministry of Education, released by the Union Minister, who is Shri Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, and it's only for higher educational institutions. IIT Madras retains the first spot in overall as well as in engineering. Of course, overall होंगे तो अपनी category में भी आप top करोगे, which is engineering. So all of this has been framed under the NIRF. NIRF, very important ranking. So we've had for several years a lot of rankings, and sometimes we can't really trust all of them. And I can tell you that rankings by private organizations, some of the private organizations are really reliable. So ऐसा नहीं कि all of them are fake. That's what a lot of people say. ऐसा नहीं है. I have myself participated in several of these ranking frameworks. When I was part of a college, we were on the other side. We had to supply, and these guys are thorough. They ask for everything. They ask that they really do a thorough investigation. NIRF is new, so until now we had private ones. Last couple of years, the government has come up uh, recognized rankings, which is the NIRF. So IISc Bengaluru and JNU, which is in New Delhi, have been ranked the top two universities, while Miranda House in Delhi has been decreed as the best degree college. It's an only girls college in Delhi. AIMS, again in New Delhi, is best for medical, while the National Law School, Bengaluru, is the best for law. Jamia Hamdard in Delhi is best for pharmacy, while IIT Kharagpur is best for architecture. Perhaps not a surprise. Architecture and sciences, they often converge at the same colleges. Jamia Hamdard, I told you, best for pharmacy. IIT Kharagpur in West Bengal, of course. Again, back to Delhi, Maulana Azad Institute of Dental Sciences. This is best for dental. And the IIMs, I think this is what you were waiting for throughout, which is why I delayed it. Last time मैंने बताया, the IIMs A, B, and C, they are the best three for management. So no doubt in that. So best wishes. I really hope all of you crack this. ठीक है. So I'm basically done with today's class. We are towards the end of this month. This is my code AD09. Please make maximum use of this so you can receive a flat 10% off. ठीक है, do like, share and subscribe. I'll keep the session open for a couple of minutes in case you guys have any doubts. You may ask me, and then we'll take it along. So do not miss my plus class tomorrow. And of course, please do not miss the NST, or the National Scholarship Test, which is scheduled for this Sunday. Okay, I think we can wrap up the session. Somebody has joined the session, so if you have any questions, please say, you can say a hello, and if you have any questions, do let me know. Whoever that is who has joined, this is my code, so do make use of this whenever you are enrolling. Otherwise, I will wrap up the session. Whoever has joined in, do say hello. In fact, if you have any questions, do feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will wrap up the session. Couple of sessions tomorrow. I'll also take one session on YouTube and a couple of special classes planned tomorrow. Will be great to interact with you guys again. Fair enough. I think we can wrap up the session. Thank you so much, guys. See you all very soon. Still no comments. A couple of other sessions of ours as well. So do